So the second case study we're presenting today is Vivi. She was 20 months at the start of intervention. She had just been given a diagnosis of autism prior to us working with her, and she lives at home with her parents. She was born with a heart defect and had undergone surgery at birth. Her feeding issues were that she was always selective in her eating. The transition to solids was quite challenging for her parents. She was very, very picky. She had a history of eating a food for 1 or 2 weeks, so jagging on a food and then dropping it from her diet. And she also was severely anemic, so her parents were, a big priority for them was feeding her this baby cereal that was fortified with iron. Meal times consisted of her either sitting at the table or sitting on what they called or standing on a learning tower. Either way, she had to be distracted in order to accept food, and her mom was worried about calories and nutrients, so she was continuing to breastfeed her throughout the day. These are her baseline foods, so this is pre-intervention, and it looks pretty good. She had a number of fruits and vegetables, but again, the issue was that she wasn't reliably eating these foods. They were hit or miss. Basically, her parents were crossing their fingers, hoping that she would try a bite that day. And again, she was being breastfed constantly through the day. So this is a video. I have 2 baseline videos of Vivi. She's standing at her learning tower in these videos, and her mom is trying to get her to eat this fortified baby cereal.
Rihanna? Ah? Baby, ah? Baby? Vaga.
So she's obviously very unwilling to eat this cereal. Mealtimes were often messy. Vivi was very reluctant to open her mouth, and so that's why she's not wearing any clothes. Oh, and here's another video from that time. And in this one, you can see a better example of her mom literally trying to shove the food in just because she won't open her mouth. Okay, so as you can see in that video, it was very challenging for her mother to feed her this fortified baby cereal. It was a big priority given how anemic she was. And so, but Vivi was very reluctant to open her mouth. So the first goal in therapy was to teach Vivi how to reliably open her mouth for a spoonful of food, whether it was the baby cereal or a soup. And once she was willingly opening her mouth, we moved on to foods that she had in her diet but weren't reliably eating. So foods that we would call hit and miss foods, or foods that she was eating on occasion. And then once she was reliably eating those for our therapist, we worked on portions of those foods. And then finally, the last goal for the time with the therapist was to increase variety, so introduce brand new foods. During parent training, we taught the parents how to use the strategies with accuracy. We taught the parents how to follow a mealtime schedule, so not allowing breastfeeding to happen across the day, but having it at scheduled times so there was opportunity to eat food. And teaching the parents how to introduce new foods. The therapy plan included scheduled meals. It also included a Kikuru chair, so teaching Vivi how to eat her meals in a well-supported chair that you can adjust for the height of the table. Her feet were supported. We also used a visual schedule with Vivi, so she knew how many bites she was going to consume and when the mealtime would be over. Instead of using the iPad or videos as distraction, we taught Mom how to use the iPad contingent on accepting bites of food. So first take a bite of food and then you can watch a video for 30 seconds. And then the video is paused and then we present the next bite of food. The team used behavioral momentum. Vivi always, the beginning of each meal was a bit of a struggle for her. She was always a little bit reluctant to open her mouth. So they'd start with the first 3 or 4 bites, feeding Vivi her most preferred food, which was whipped cream. So they would feed it to her on a spoon. She was starting to open her mouth, warming her up to eating again. And then they would move on to the more challenging food. Demand fading was also a strategy that was used, which involved feeding with new foods, introducing them with just tiny, tiny bites to start. And once she was accepting those bites, increasing the size of bite. So here's a chart of her outcomes, similar to the one Chantel presented. The blue bar are the foods she was eating before intervention. The orange bar are the foods that were introduced during the intensive therapy with the therapist. And then the green bar are the foods that were introduced during monitoring. So this is when there was less support from our team and the parents were introducing the foods on their own. Vitamins and supplements were also introduced. She learned to eat a multivitamin gummy. She learned to accept an iron supplement, as well as another meal replacement supplement. This is just a list of foods. It's super hard to read. Even I can't read it, but I guess the most important point here is that the foods in bold are the foods that the parents introduced without the therapist present. So here's some parent and child videos. This is Mom introducing soup to Vivi. What's most important here is the difference in how Vivi responds to the spoon. In the early videos, she was very reluctant to open her mouth. Now she's opening her mouth willingly for the bite. Mom's using the iPad contingent on accepting bites of food as opposed to as a distraction.
Good.
Teddy likes the peas. 1, 2, 3, almost gone, you see. No, they're mine.
Good job, baby.
I'll eat them now. Yum, yum, yum. I like them well.
Hey.
Carrots, it's time to eat your carrots.
It's such a good video. I just love how this little girl is now opening her mouth for food. She's wearing clothes at the table, and Mom's showing her how many bites are left by removing a picture symbol each time she accepts a bite of food. Here's Dad. Mom and Dad really wanted her to learn how to drink milk, and so the way that we introduced milk to this little girl was by presenting it on a spoon. And so here's a video of Dad introducing milk. And the reward for her accepting the spoonfuls of milk was she was given flashcards to play with.
Ha.
And then finally, this is Vivi's dad introducing cheese. The demand fading strategy here, again, was small bites of cheese to start. And as it got easier for her, they increased the size of bite of cheese. She was self-feeding cheese, and you'll see at the early part of this video, she was refusing to try the cheese, so Dad had to quickly reevaluate the reinforcer, which is one of the steps in response to a refusal behavior. So he had to find a new video to motivate her, and sure enough, once he found a new video, she was willing to try a bite of food.
Ta-da! Cheese! 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 cheese.
I love how Dad continued to use the iPad contingent. So often, when kids learn to eat new foods, parents find the effort of pausing the iPad to wait for the child to accept the next bite as it's too much work, or it slows down the process. Kids are so much faster if they eat while distracted, and so they resort to just giving their child the video distraction free, or as a distraction, sorry. So it's so lovely that he continued to use the iPad in a contingent manner. So we were able to meet all our goals for therapy, which was pretty amazing. By the end, she was reliably eating 70 foods. Again, it took 36 sessions, 24 sessions with the therapist, 12 sessions of parent training, so lots and lots of parent training, and then there were 5 monitoring sessions completed across 6 months. Her parents were able to introduce new foods without the therapist present, which is our ultimate goal. Her mom was now only breastfeeding Vivi at nap and at bedtime. Her doctor was no longer concerned with her vitamin deficiency, and generally meals were far less stressful for the family. And this is Vivi at 7 months following intervention. These videos are so great. This is a video of her eating rice and egg. Proteins were hard for her, so it's pretty exciting for her to see her eat one. She actually looks like she's enjoying food, which is pretty amazing. Here's another one of her eating chapati, and I think a curry of a sort.
Yum, yum, yum. Yum, yum, yum.
खाना சாப்பிட்டோம் தட்டு தட்டு தட்டு
She's commenting on the food, she's imitating her mom, which is so lovely. And then in the final video, her father is feeding her, again, it's milk from a spoon, but they're reading a book together, which is pretty neat. Just meal times seem much more relaxed and positive.
இப்போ நான் நிறைய ஸ்கூல் H H H is for horse. The horse eats hay. Hay. Just like how Vihana is eating milk. Yum is for milk. Next page. Next page, Vihana. Helicopter. We saw an helicopter yesterday. Helicopter. Helicopter flies in the sky. Ah. Next.